Welcome to the PR Maven podcast, a podcast all about growing your network and building your brand through traditional and digital networking techniques. I'm Nancy Marshall, the PR Maven and CEO of Marshall Communications. I've been strengthening brands through PR for over 35 years, and now I'm celebrating the success of executives, influencers, business owners, and entrepreneurs from all around the world, all of whom have cultivated their brands and broadened their networks through traditional and digital networking methods. Each week, I interview one of these interesting and influential individuals and provide an opportunity for you, the PR Maven Nation, to gain insights from their strategies and stories. So stay tuned for this week's episode, and thanks for listening. Hello, I'm Nancy Marshall, the PR Maven. And I've been working in PR throughout my long career, and I have a special interest in personal branding. That's what makes you stand out from others who do the same thing you do, and it attracts people who need what you have to offer. I'm a keynote speaker, an author, and a columnist for the Forbes Agency Council and Maine Biz. My audiences have said that helping them think about their superpower has changed the way they think about their careers and their lives. I hope you like this episode, and I hope you'll share it with others who might be interested in hearing it. And my guest today is Liz Williams, who's the communications manager for the Episcopalian Diocese of Georgia. Welcome to the PR Maven podcast, Liz.
Hi.
So nice to have you here. So Liz Williams is a lifelong Episcopalian and has been fortunate to have served as both a lay volunteer and as church staff. She has always loved the church, the liturgy, the hymns, and most importantly, the way we love others. That's nice.
Oh, thanks.
Her experiences within the church as a kid through adulthood have helped propel Liz's involvement and have been an integral part in her faith formation. Currently, she serves as the communications manager for the Episcopal Diocese of Georgia, which includes social media, public relations, communications, and connecting with the larger church. Liz has also served on the Episcopalian Communicators Conference Planning Committee since 2022 as chair for the 2023 and 2024 conference, and sits on the board of Episcopal Communicators. Through all her work in the diocese within Episcopal Communicators and in the larger Episcopal Church, she has had the opportunity to grow and learn in her profession and in her relationships with other communicators. In her downtime, you can find her in the Low Country in Savannah, Georgia, which I love, sitting on a couch with a book, curled up with her sweet pit staffy mix, Dolly, and a good cocktail. I'm with you on that, Liz. That sounds awesome.
It's a great way to spend your time.
Yes, exactly. So, Liz, tell us about your career in communications and how you got into it in the first place.
Sure. So I did my undergrad in marketing, which unfortunately at the time I realized it didn't have like a PR thread in it, which was a little bit of learning that in my senior year of college. I was like, well, I'm not staying any longer to get those classes. So I did, as you do, you enter sales when you have a marketing degree, and realized that was not for me. So I eventually discerned a call into ministry of serving the church in youth and children ministry. So moved into those positions within different parishes and organizations, and really just worked on communications that way. So still working on the same framework of sending out information, updating church members, that kind of stuff. So using those skills, you wouldn't necessarily think that you get from your degree in a completely different environment in ministry. And so just really growing and learning. And then eventually I worked for a nonprofit for mental and behavioral health for children and families, and did some development in marketing and communications with them. And then when our current bishop, Frank Logue, was elected, he was building his staff and called me and said, "Hey, I'd love to talk to you about transitioning and melding the two lives of yours together with ministry and communications in one, and let's talk and see if this will be a good fit for you for the diocese." And I said, "Cool, let's do it." And so here we are, almost 4 years later.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, when you really think about public relations and communications, you're in the business of getting the word out. And I think the goal is to get the word out to more people so you can be of service to more people. So it really makes sense for a diocese or a congregation to have a strong communication strategy.
Oh, for sure. When you think about um, evangelism, it's not necessarily just going to church on Sunday and or getting your friends to go with you to church on Sunday, but also how are we spreading the gospel in other ways that are more face forward. So social media for sure plays a big part in that.
Right, exactly. And I mean, when I think about a brand, and a strong brand should be like a magnet that attracts the people who needs what it has to offer. So
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly what you're trying to do. And of course, we're going to talk in a bit about a personal brand also. And I can see how personal branding is really important as well for anyone in the church.
Mm-hmm.
So you have an upcoming conference in Portland, Maine, where I will be the keynote speaker and workshop presenter. I'm so excited.
Yay!
It's in April. And first, tell us about the conference overall and where listeners can find more information about it.
Sure. So, Episcopal Communicators is turning 50 this year, which is a big deal. And so we are very excited to launch a lot of new things at the conference this year. And one of them is a rebranding. So that'll be exciting. Um, but basically, our conference held annually is for those who are in positions like mine, where your title is specifically dealing with communications, to all the way to like those who just happen to have to do it for their parish or for the organization. So it could be parish admins, could be clergy, could be some volunteers. So it's a wide range of folks that we are able to get. And we want to make sure that we build community first and foremost, so that we have a good network. Just like any other professional network, you want to be able to have somebody you can call if you need assistance, but also having some solid tools to take home to continue the ministry of communicating with their parish and with their community at large, and whatever that looks like. So we have workshops like yours on crisis communications, which has gotten to be a little bit more prevalent in the last few years than previously, to basics of Canva. So those who were like, I don't know how to do graphic design, but I know I need to do it. A content calendar, different types and styles of communications, video editing, all that rebranding. That's been a big thing for us this last year. And so coming to the conference, hopefully folks can walk away with a few more skills and knowledge, as well as knowing that there's a larger community out there that is accessible and a great resource for other people. So we're excited.
Yeah, it sounds like, all the things that I definitely am interested in. And I'm sure that all the people who will be there, people will have different levels of skills of, for example, Canva or crisis communications or PR and branding. So, yeah, and it will definitely build community. And you're
Oh,
going to
for
be in
sure.
beautiful Portland, Maine, which is where I live. So, how did you choose Portland?
So we are Me personally, I'm super excited to be in Portland. I've never been. Very excited. um, Part of the planning process for the planning committee for the conference, which is separate from the board, is to look at potential cities where we could go and have the space and the extra amenities. So Portland was one of our top picks this year. And we narrowed it down from about, I think, 3 finalists from our planning committee, each of us taking time to, call up the city and send out emails and be like, asking the diocese that's there, like, would you have us? And making sure that we can fly there. Transportation's important. So we also look at our demographics of where our communicators are located throughout the US and see, okay, where would most of our communicators be able to go? So we have a lot of East Coasters. We do travel around so that we do hit out on the West Coast sometimes too, so we don't ignore those folks. So Texas isn't always flying to the East Coast. But we have a large swath of communicators on the East Coast, so that helps us define where we want to be. And Portland just seems cool. So we are very excited.
It is pretty cool. I mean, one of the other hats I wear is public relations for the state of Maine Tourism Office.
Yes.
So, I mean, I could go on and on about why Portland and Maine are so awesome. But for one thing, the lobster is pretty amazing. So you're going to have a lobster roll when you get here.
I feel like I'm not going to be eating anything else. Be like, chicken? No, that's not what I want. I'm in Portland and in Maine. You guys have other food groups? I'm confused.
We also do have very good beer, though. There's a lot of breweries here.
Yeah,
so that's another specialty.
We have a good core group who likes to go out and explore. So I know we have some folks who will be very excited to see what else Portland has to offer than what we put forth. So I'm excited.
Oh, that's great. So there will be a workshop presented by Steve McCausland and me. And Steve was with the state of Maine Police or Public Safety for 35 years. And we do workshops on crisis communications. It's going to be a 4-hour workshop where we're actually going to talk about the different crises that could occur in the Episcopalian Church. Tell me, why is this an important topic for the Episcopalian Diocese?
We have had the Episcopal Church in general, and I think as we see within the world, is we've had a lot of crises happening within our neighborhoods and in our communities that are things that we would never have expected. For example, the shooting at St. Stephen's in Birmingham, Alabama. That was something I don't think anybody would ever have expected for that to happen at a parish. And it was a tragedy. And this church was all of a sudden thrown into this maelstrom of activity. And all of a sudden this beautiful parish and this sweet little place in Birmingham just all of a sudden was in the news and front forward. And the diocese had a lot of hands-on communications with the press and handled it really well, which is not always the case here in our diocese, in the Diocese of Georgia, with the killing of Ahmaud Arbery. It's in our diocese. Brunswick is not far from Savannah, and there were some ties to Episcopal churches there as well. And so having to navigate the situations and the community, and how are we also ministering, as well as though at St. Stephen's, how are we ministering to the community at large when something tragic happens? And also, how are we taking care of ourselves? And so what plans do we have forth for that in order to make sure we are taking care of each other in the best way possible? So as much as we don't want to be prepared for some of these major crises, and some of them are not as tragic. Some of them are weather related. So a hurricane comes through and destroys your parish or parts of your parishioners' homes. How are we handling that as a community as well? So just making sure that we equip people with the right tools for situations that arise that are unexpected, because that's what these crises are like, right? I mean, you can't foresee something happening, and so how are we equipping ourselves as well as possible to make sure that we are staying the path and taking care of ourselves in that way?
Exactly. And a big part of communicating in a crisis, of course, is showing empathy for the people who are victims, whether there's been fatalities or injuries, and showing that you really care about the people that have been impacted and their families. So I feel that that's part of your language anyway in the church, is showing that you care. So I'm looking forward to this session, and just helping you formulate messages, because a large part of crisis communications planning is planning what you will say if something bad happens. And when something bad happens, you might not know exactly what to say, because you might not even know really what happened at first. So a lot of it is just figuring out what to say more, a level above no comment. You don't want to say, oh, no comment, because that makes it look like you're covering something up. So one of the things we'll talk about is what I call a by time statement, which is like, something happens and then the media calls, the local TV station wants to send a camera, and you need to just buy yourself some time, before you're really ready to talk about it. So we'll be talking about a by time statement also. We'll also be talking about how, if you can address the situation head on, it will make it go away more quickly than if you try to hide behind the situation. Because if you try to hide, they're going to probe, the media will probe even more, and then it will go on longer than you want it to. So I'm very excited about both the crisis communications workshop and the keynote. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. But first, we're going to take a little break. If anybody who's listening would like to see the first chapter of my book, which is called Grow Your Audience, Grow Your Brand, you can go to prmaven.com/giveaway and sign up for our email list, and then you'll receive the first chapter. But Liz, you might receive the whole book in the mail after having been a guest on the podcast.
I love that for me.
So we'll be back in just a moment with more from Liz Williams.
Sprague & Curtis is a locally owned real estate company. We're primarily focused in central Maine. I got excited about Nancy's book because she's so well known in the area for her marketing and branding techniques, and we're always looking to expand and learn and grow, and so a lot of us here at the office decided that we wanted to read her book and learn some new techniques.
It benefits Sprague & Curtis to have a large brand and audience because there can often be multiple years between transactions with clients, so it's important to network with them and stay in touch with them in those in-between periods. And this book really helped us learn some techniques and methods to continue to do that. We organized a small book group with Nancy's book with brokers in our office this winter to share information and remind ourselves how important it is to always be working on our network and continually reaching out to our customers.
Platforms like social media are important in expanding your business, but equally as important are handwritten notes, cards, letters. She inspired me to send her a note of appreciation, just thanking her for the book and her insight. In reading Nancy's book, I was excited to look to continue to grow our brand and our audience. I think she does a great job of motivating us.
Nancy's book really helped me learn a few things in marketing and branding and how important it is to stay on top of reaching out to clients periodically, staying top of mind, providing useful information, and really telling our story as a company.
So again, you can get a free chapter from my book by visiting prmaven.com/giveaway. And I'd like to welcome you back to the PR Maven podcast. We're talking with Liz Williams, and the podcast is available on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, as well as marshallpr.com/podcast. So now we're going to turn the tables, and Liz is going to ask me some questions about my speech and the workshop. So go ahead, Liz.
Ooh, I feel so much power right now.
You look powerful. You look very powerful.
Thank you. So we were very excited when your name was brought up by one of our colleagues to come and be our keynote speaker. So will you talk a little bit more about what you'll be including in your keynote and what you're excited about, especially coming to talk to this group of communicators?
Sure. So I have a superpower, Liz, which is, since I was a child, I've been able to talk to just about anybody. And I am deeply curious about other people. You know, when I meet a person, I just really want to ask them a lot of questions and get to know them. And what I realized is that superpower is a great way to grow a network. And if you have a large network of people who know, like, and trust you, then you have a personal brand, a strong personal brand. So basically, in the past, 5 to 7 years, I've really been thinking a lot about this and about how my personality is one that, I'm not afraid to talk to anybody, but I know a lot of people are afraid, it makes them nervous to ask questions of other people. So in my keynote, I talk about how to grow a network of people. And essentially, people need to know you, they need to like you, and they need to trust you in order to be willing to listen to your message. Now, not everyone will like you. And that's kind of like, it kind of hurts your feelings to think, well, not everybody's going to like you. But what you need to do is just embrace those who do like you. And I think the same will be for the whole Episcopalian church as a whole, the whole brand of the church. Not everybody wants to go to the Episcopalian church, but what you need to do as Episcopalian communicators is strongly embrace those who really want to hear your message and want to be part of your community and all of your congregations. So my talk really delves into embracing your superpower. And even if you are shy and introverted, there's ways that you can ask other people questions and get them to talk about themselves. And if you just listen to them and honor them by listening, they're going to love you. Like, they'll think, wow, Liz really cared about me. She asked me a lot of questions about my childhood and what I like to do. And, this is something that my mother taught me, actually, when I was growing up, is to just show people you care. In my keynote, I talk about Maya Angelou, who said, people will forget what you said and people will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. So really, how you make people feel is your personal brand. It's your reputation. And so my keynote really is a deep dive into that. And I share some stories from my own career, because I've been working in PR for a long time now, almost 4 decades.
That's as old as I am.
I also talk about, getting my start before the internet was even a thing, and how thrilled I was when like social media was created, because I felt like, oh, they created this for me because I just love to socialize.
That's
So
so great.
I'm excited. I've been working hard on the keynote. I attended a program last year in New Jersey called Heroic Public Speaking, and it's a professional training program for speakers. So
That's
if you're
really
interested
cool.
in hearing more about that, I can tell you more about that. But the website is heroicpublicspeaking.com, and it's near Philadelphia in Lambertville, New Jersey. It's a 7-month program. It's pretty intense. It's
Wow.
I mean, I didn't stay there for the whole 7 months. I just went like 3 days a month for 4 months, but otherwise I was on the Zoom calls with them about 4 hours a week. And you develop your keynote, and then you learn to perform it kind of like you're in a play, on stage. So
Yeah.
it was really kind of life-changing for me.
Oh, wow. I really like how you framed it as honoring someone when you're really listening to them. And I think that's a really important concept for us to remember, especially being in the church, about how we make other people feel, and how we make them seen. And I think it's really important and key for sure.
Yeah. Inside every one of us, there's a child inside of our brain who just wants to be recognized, as you said, and validated and honored. And listening to a person really does validate and honor them. And Emma Dimick is my producer of the podcast. She's very shy, and we actually joke about how it would be good if I was a little more shy, if she was a little more. But because she is shy, she's a very good listener, and I love to have her on calls with clients because she picks up on a lot of the details that I might not pick up on. And
we all need that.
Yeah. So, again, I talk a lot in my speech about how introverts can actually have sometimes the best personal brand because they come across as maybe more caring than extroverts.
Yeah, you've touched on your crisis communications workshop a little bit earlier. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, and how that would be beneficial, I guess, to us a little bit more?
Yes. So again, Steve McCausland, who is a veteran police communicator, he and I will talk a lot about sort of all the basics that apply to any crisis, regardless of whether it's an explosion or an accident or a fire. We will explore, some of the possible situations that can happen. And then we talk about creating a message map, which is it's a document that has sort of the key messages about your organization. So even if it doesn't even really matter what the crisis is, you still want to convey what your organization does on a daily basis and what you're trying to accomplish, and also how you have great care and concern for the people who are members of your community. So there are certain messages that will apply regardless of what the crisis is. They're what I would call evergreen messages. They apply every day because it's about what you do day in and day out. But then on this message map, also you would fill in the blank according to what the specific situation was. And as I said before, the number one thing you want to show as an organization is your concern for the health and safety and well-being of if it's your parishioners or your members or participants or whatever you're going to refer to them as. I think what happens in a lot of situations, and we're going to talk about a specific crisis that happened up in Canada a few years ago, where the CEO of this company. It was a train company, actually. And by the time he got on television, he was so stressed out and worried about himself. Like, all he talked about is how horrible this train crash had been for him. And it's like, nobody cares about you. You're the CEO. That's your job. You should be showing concern about the victims. There was a terrible train crash with a lot of fatalities. And so we're going to talk about that and how, if you're the spokesperson, you don't matter anymore. What matters is the people who have been impacted. So, empathy and compassion are very important qualities in a spokesperson. We're also going to talk about deciding who is going to be the spokesperson. It's good to identify in advance who the spokesperson is, but that person might be out of town on that day. So you really need to have a substitute who would be available. So it's really a good idea to have more than one person who's trained and ready. I know. It can be one of the most frightening things of a career. But as I said, if you just lead with your heart, people will be able to tell. Like, people listening to you or seeing you on television. A big thing about being on television too is just, again, coming across as a compassionate person, and people can really tell. Just by how you conduct yourself, not wearing sunglasses. You want people to be able to see your eyes, because your eyes are like the mirror into your soul.
Yeah, I am very excited about your workshop. That was something that I was pumped about when we started to narrow down who we might ask for keynote speakers, and I think your workshop will be really beneficial to a lot of people at our conference. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, Steve and I have done these for people in schools, people who are in outdoor education. We've done them for people who are spokespeople for state governments. We've had a wide variety of participants in these workshops, but people always leave feeling, whew, I feel so much more prepared now.
Yes, I think so. I think, just, the examples that I talked about earlier about crisis communications is that they come up on you and you don't know what's happening. And so I think helping solidify a plan, I think it doesn't matter how long you've been in communications. If you don't, this is something that you don't have to deal with a lot of the time. It's not an everyday occurrence where you're not the press secretary for the White House.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think this will be good for communicators across the board. So I'm very appreciative.
Yeah. Well, Steve and I are excited about connecting with all of you and having you in our home state also, because Maine is such a beautiful place. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a couple questions now. If people want to register for the conference, how do they do that?
You can go to episcopalcommunicators.org, and there's a tab that you can click on for conference and has all the information. Early bird pricing is still available until February 14th. So I'm sure church budgets would love to have you register early.
Now, do people need to be a member, or is it open to the general public if somebody who isn't even an Episcopal, if they're a communicator from another kind of a church, are they still welcome?
Yeah, so it's open to everybody. We do have a membership option that gives you a lot of extra resources throughout the year if you want to become a member of Episcopal Communicators. But the conference is open to everybody. So we welcome anybody and everybody who feels so called to come to Portland this year.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what are the dates exactly, Liz?
So it is April 14th through 19th, because your communicators labs are first. It's our pre-conference workshops before we kick off the whole workshop. So people can come for yours, Communicator Lab, which will be really exciting. There's also 2 other options for Communicator Lab as well. And all of this is on our website, including workshops, presenters. We also have a virtual option that we will do the first 4 Thursdays in May. So if people are not able to come in person to the conference, they can sign up to be a virtual participant. And the virtual option is also open to everyone who comes in person as well. So if there's a workshop you missed during the conference, you'll be able to come back and see it for the online option.
That's great. So you're having people that will videotape all the sessions then?
We'll have workshop presenters present them again for the virtual option. So they'll be able to have some Q&A time and all that kind of stuff as well. And we'll be doing some other stuff to help build community that we typically get for the in-person, so that our virtual attendees will be able to continue to network as well.
So Liz, is there a book, a podcast, or an app that has been helpful to you in your career, and why?
So I've been thinking about this, and maybe this is not great that I'm just like, I don't know. But I will say, a friend of mine who's also a fellow communicator, because sometimes you just need your brain to turn off and you need to listen to something that has nothing to do with your life. And so she suggested last year at our conference, and I've been obsessed since. And it's a podcast called Normal Gossip. It is hilarious because people send in stories that are just like everyday shenanigans at home and they anonymize them enough, and they have a guest come on and they're like, okay, what would you do at this point? And all you're doing is like, I have zero investment in like this bridesmaid situation in the middle of nowhere, but I want to know what happens. And I am like sitting there, like I am listening to it like it happened to a friend of mine. And so it is just so fun and adorable, and a great way to just turn your brain off. And because I know a lot of us in communications and in church work sometimes just need to unplug and not think about anything. So Normal Gossip is by Defector Radio. It's so good.
All right, good. I'll have to check that out.
It's just great when you're driving or just need to unplug.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Thank you. And how can people get in touch with you if they want to follow up with you, Liz?
Sure. So I am on Instagram and X, formerly known as Twitter, as all of the emails like to remind me, as Liz May, M-A-Y, Williams. And you can find me on all the socials that way. You can also just look me up for the Diocese of Georgia if you want to email me that way.
Well, this has been awesome. I can't wait to meet you in person, and maybe we'll have a lobster roll together.
Yay!
Maybe a cocktail too.
Listen, so far you're hitting all my favorite things, Nancy. Let's go.
Well, I'll be waiting for you in April here in Portland, Maine.
Awesome. I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Nancy.
All right. Well, this has been great. And I want to thank everybody in PR Maven Nation for joining us. Hopefully, we're going to have some new members of PR Maven Nation from the Episcopalian Diocese. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Have a great day. Thanks for listening to this episode of the PR Maven podcast. I invite you to share a review of the podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. You can also join the PR Maven Nation on Facebook. It's free to join, and it's a great community of like-minded individuals who are all looking to learn and grow from one another. If you use an Alexa device, use your Alexa app to search the Skills and Games section to find and enable the PR Maven Podcast Flash Briefing. This will give you access to exclusive content and more PR and marketing advice. Thanks again for listening and have a great rest of your week, PR Maven Nation.